Democratic Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib says she will not be visiting Israel after the country reversed its ban blocking her entry. Tlaib had been granted a humanitarian pass to visit relatives in the West Bank on the condition that she agreed in writing not to promote boycotts against Israel during her trips. She now says she will not go. Nikole Killion is following the story from the White House.
Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib says she will not go to Israel after all. Israeli leadership decided Friday to allow Tlaib to visit her grandmother in the West Bank as long as she promised not to discuss a boycott of Israel during her stay, something Tlaib had initially agreed to do. But in a tweet this morning, she said, "I have decided that visiting my grandmother under these oppressive conditions stands against everything I believe in, fighting against racism, oppression, and injustice." Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu had banned Tlaib and fellow Congresswoman Ilhan Omar, both of whom are Muslim, because they support a boycott of Israel over its treatment of Palestinians. Netanyahu was responding to pressure from President Trump, who suggested the prime minister should ban the Democratic Congresswoman.
I think it would be a terrible thing, frankly, for Israel to let these two people who speak so badly about Israel come in. And they have become, amazingly, the face of the Democrats.
Former U.S. Ambassador to Israel Dan Shapiro says the president is playing politics.
He has said the Democrats are an anti-Israel party and anti-Semitic parties. These are absurd slurs, but he's trying to get those ideas cemented into the public discourse.
Republican Senators Marco Rubio and Susan Collins joined Democrats in protesting Israel's decision, as did the powerful pro-Israeli lobby AIPAC, which said the Congresswoman should be allowed to visit.
And Nikole Killion joins me now from the White House. So, Nikole, why has Congresswoman Tlaib decided not to go ahead with her visit? We've seen that statement that she has released, but what's interesting is that she had sent a letter to the Israeli government on congressional letterhead requesting that visit.
Well, that's right. And what she goes on to explain in her most recent statement today is that she felt those conditions and terms that she had to agree to by Israel in order to travel there. She said that they were frankly oppressive and designed to humiliate her. She also said that silencing her with treatment to make her feel less than would essentially kill a piece of her that stands up to racism and injustice. She furthermore went on to say that she doesn't want her grandmother to be used as a bargaining chip by the Israelis.
Nikole, have we heard or received any reaction from the Israeli government?
Well, we have. You know, in granting the request initially, Israel's interior minister said that, the country would grant this request for Congresswoman Tlaib to visit her grandmother on humanitarian grounds. As you mentioned, she had written this letter saying this may be one of the last times she'll have an opportunity to see her grandmother. And so, again, the government reversed course and said it would allow her to do so on humanitarian grounds, provided she didn't promote a boycott of Israel. But then once she put out that statement saying that she would no longer travel, we did see the Interior Minister hit back on Twitter, basically saying that Tlaib's hate for Israel overcomes the love of her grandmother.
So, Nikole, I'm curious. I know that the Israelis have given a legal reason as to why they are denying, or at least initially denied, both Congresswoman Tlaib and Omar the opportunity to visit Israel. But it does seem coincidental that the President of the United States put out a tweet, and just a couple of hours later, the Israelis denied their entry when a week earlier they had suggested that they would allow them to visit the state of Israel, even though they had been very critical and had called for a boycott. So are we to take, I don't know if we've had reaction from Israel, but are we to take that this was because of this Twitter diplomacy that the President of the United States carried out?
Well, it's unclear, and certainly there needs to be more reporting to kind of get to the bottom of it, quite frankly, because the president was asked directly whether or not he spoke with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu about this. He says that he didn't, and he really actually, I should clarify that, he really wouldn't say who he spoke to. And so that does remain a big open question as to whether or not he made some kind of direct appeal to the prime minister or to Israeli government officials. And even even again today, a senior administration official would not specify who, if anyone, the president or anyone else, for that matter, within the administration may have spoken to. That being said, the president certainly continued to stand by that tweet that he put out yesterday, saying that it would be a show of weakness by Israel if it were to let Tlaib and Omar in.
You know, it's also sort of surprising, Nikole, and I don't know if you've heard more from the White House, from officials in the White House, but the President of the United States has been very critical of these two congresswomen, as you know, but he was asked yesterday on his way to his rally in New Hampshire to remark on the comments that Steve King of Iowa made, comments regarding rape and incest and how civilization wouldn't exist without those two horrific acts. And the president claimed that he hadn't been briefed on it, but then he said that he knew that they were terrible comments, but that he didn't know anything much about it, sort of seemingly two contradictory statements there. He's quick to go after these congresswomen, but slow, I guess, to react to Congressman King.
Yeah, definitely a different response there, certainly by the president in terms of, and certainly we know in terms of Congressman King, it's certainly not the first time that he has made controversial statements, including controversial statements about race. But that being said, certainly the president has taken a more vocal position, as you pointed out, with regard to not only Congresswoman Tlaib and Omar, but the other lawmakers who make up this so-called squad. Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley out of Massachusetts. I mean, it was just a few weeks ago that he had put out that tweet telling them they should go back to their own countries, even though they are all American citizens.
Yeah, and I'll quote for our viewers what the president told the press on Thursday. He said, quote, "I read a statement that supposedly he made in regards to Congressman King. I still haven't been briefed on it, but it certainly wasn't a very good statement." So he's read it, but he hasn't been briefed on it, but it wasn't a good statement. Meanwhile, the congressman told his constituents, according to the Des Moines Register, that he has, quote, seen no signal from Donald Trump that he's anything other than supportive of me. Nikole Killion for us at the White House today. Thank you, Nikole.